Hi, today's lesson is going to be on Java loops. In this lesson, we are going to cover while loops, do while loops, for loops, and then we're going to go back and we're going to, do a different version of each one of those where the for loops will add in a continue to show that it skips over an iteration within the for loop. And then we're going to add a break to a separate for loop. And in using for loops, we're actually going to end with nested loops. And then we're going to use a return statement within nested loops to kind of end all of the operations of both levels or layers of loops for the nested for loops. Let's get started. All right, what we have here is the Hello Live lessons, and we basically can just run this, and then it'll show the Hello Live lessons on the right. Okay, great. So next, we would probably want to get into the loops. So we are going to create a separate class just for the loop handling. And this class is going to be called run loops. All right. And going back to the previous lesson on methods, we basically are going to use static methods to run each individual set of loops just to kind of keep everything separated and, where you can cleanly see exactly what's going on with that loop. All right. So the first loop that we are going to implement is the while loop. So we're going to create a public static void run with while loop. All right. And and inside of the run with while loop, I want to basically print the name of the method just to show where we are in the code or where we are in execution. All right, so we're going to say called run with while loop just to know that we made it to this method. And within this method, we're going to do some random number generation, but we're going to run the while loop until the random number is divisible by 4. All right. So first we're going to generate random number, and we are going to loop on whether the random number, or the response. The response from is loop on whether the response is divisible. Okay. Random number is divisible by 4. Okay. And essentially, we're going to print out all of the iterations of the loop. And then we're going to print the ending of the loop after the loop is completed. So we're going to display the loop final value. All right, and then before that, we're within the loop, we're going to display the random value current response. Okay. All right. So basically, this comes inside the loop, and we're going to end off with that. All right. So let's get started with writing the code for it. So the first thing that we want to do is create a random object. Random equals new random. Random. Right. And we're going to import the random class up top. And we are going to generate a random response. So int response equals random dot next int, and we're going to do numbers between 0 and 99. And now we're going to start the loop. So our loop is a while loop, and basically within this while loop, we need to make sure that the response is divisible by 4, or is basically is not divisible by 4. So as long as the response is not 4, 8, 12, 16, 44, something, or 40, something divisible by 4, then it's going to continue to run this loop over and over and over again. So we are going to display the current response, and that looks like system print line, right? And okay, so random response. Okay, so that's going to display it. And then we also need to generate another random response here. So let's just go ahead and do this again. All right. So basically what we do is we come and we start off by generating a random response the first time around before entering the loop, so that we have a value to check against the first time we test the logic of the loop. And if this number is, say, 11, 11 is not divisible by 44. I'm sorry, 11 is not divisible by 4. So it comes inside, it reports 11 here, and then it generates a new random number. And let's say that one is 44. So then we have 44 modulus 4, which is divisible by 4. So this fails. And it doesn't come back inside, and it basically displays the final response here. So let's go ahead and put the final response here. Okay. And we're going to call run with while loop. So down here, we are going to say run loops dot run with while loop. And we're going to run this. Okay, great. So what happened here was we generated a random number of 50, then a number of 19, then 75, then 14, then 69, then 62, then 67. And finally, we generated a 0, which technically is divisible by 4 and equals 0. So it came out of this loop because we found the divisor of 4, which is 0. All right. Okay, so moving along, the next section is running with for loops. All right, so let's go ahead and copy this for saving time. And we're going to run with for loops, plural. We're going to do multiple for loops. And let's just get rid of this. And do we need random numbers? No, we do not. This one is for printing. All right. Okay, so loop on digits or index. Loop on index. So for loop. For loop on index, and we're going to have another one that does the same thing. And basically, we're going to have some empty print statements as well. All right. Okay, so let's do a for loop. So a for loop is basically going to look like this. It has an initialization area. It has a logical area. And it has an update area. So as you might see, system out print line. Which one? Oh, I need another semicolon. Maybe not. Okay, yeah. So there's an initialization area, a logical area, and an update area where you update the whatever your counter is for that for loop. So in this case, we are going to declare an index. And it's going to start off as 0. And then we're going to do a logical check on that index. So we're going to say as long as index is less than 10, and then we're going to update index. So here we're going to say index plus plus. All right. So what we want to do with this is basically report out numbers with comma separated numbers. So we don't want to start off with the first number having a comma in front of it, but every number after the first number, we do want to have a comma. So here, just print first, print index, or yeah, print index. We're going to print the index. And then down here, we're going to print the index with a comma, right? And basically in this if statement here, the first digit that we print is going to be 0. So when index is 0, we're going to print the index with no comma. So let's go ahead and do that. System.out.println. And we're just going to print the index. Oh no, wait, I need spacing. Let's do a print F. And the formatting is going to be %2D, and the index is going to be the number that represents the D or the decimal. All right, and with the comma, we basically just add a comma here and a space, and that basically is the rest of the digits being printed out. And yeah, so because all of these numbers are going to go on the same line because there's no new line, we basically end it off with a new line to go to the next line. So let's go ahead and run with for loops. Right. I need a extra print in here just to be able to read things easier. All right, so what you see here is the first digit being printed, and then there's a space, I'm sorry, there's a comma, 2 spaces, and the digit. So basically, yeah, we print out from 0 to 9 because that's where the loop went. So with a for loop, we start at 0 and then we end at right before 10. So you go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But if we counted how many digits that were being used here, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So from 0 to less than 10 is always going to be 10 positions, but the positions start at 0. So we have to subtract 1 to account for 0 to 9. And there's a reason why we start these things at 0. A lot of times we use 0 to index arrays and things of that nature, array list and things that have a 0-based indexing, which is something that I go into in the collections lessons. You can check back in that lesson. All right, moving along, we're going to do something similar for another for loop, but this time we're going to start it at 10, and we're going to end it at 1. Index is greater than 0. Yeah. All right. And instead of incrementing this loop, if we increment it here, we started at 10, and as long as index is greater than 0 increment, this would go for infinity. Like this would basically just never, it would be a endless loop. So because we're starting at the end of a number set and then we're going back to the beginning, we need to decrement. So in this case, we're going to decrease and then go back to the front of the numbers, or we're going to start at 10 and go down to 1. So what that looks like in the if statement is if index is 10, then we just print the digit by itself. And otherwise, if index is not the first number, then we print it with a comma and a space and then 2 spaces for the digits. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. Okay, you see here we start at 10 and then go down to 1. So this is basically the gist of how for loops work. You can moderate, exactly how you want things to work within the for loop. As far as formatting, as far as logic and things of that nature, you can do all of that within the for loop. All right, moving along. All right, so the next loop is nested loops. So basically, instead of these two loops being separate, I'm actually going to join them together in this next method. So this one is run with nested loops, nested for loops. All right. And instead of these two being separate, I am going to merge them. And I am going to take this guy out. So notice how in the previous method, index being declared in the for loop did not conflict with index being declared in the other for loop. But now this for loop, the inner for loop, is within the scope of the outer for loop. So we can't redeclare index more than once within the scope of the first for loop. So let's go ahead and change the outside index to I index. And let's change the inside index to J index. All right, so everywhere the outer loop is referenced, we're going to have that. And we're not going to start at 10 for this loop. And also, we're going to do it in a regular looping fashion. So going from 0 to some maximum number. So let's go ahead and update this I index here. And then we have J index here. And we are going to need a for loop, but the for loop, I'm sorry, we are going to need an if statement, but the if statement is going to be based upon J index. So the goal here, for loop on I index and for loop on J index. Okay, so the goal here of this nested loop is we are going to print out all of the, we are going to print out all of the indices, similar to how we did here, where we went from 0 to 9, but now we're going to go from 1 to 100. So because we have the nested loop, we're basically multiplying. So whatever happens in here, it happens this many times as well. So if we go from 0 to 10 on the inside loop, and then we go from 0 to 10 on the outside loop, then that's basically going from 0 to 99 if we were to count all of those numbers. Maybe if we counted all of those iterations, it would be 100 iterations, but it starts at 0, so it ends at 99. And let's just give an example of that now. So what I want to do, instead of 2 places, because the 100 is going to be 3 digits, we're going to go 2 places. All right, and we are going to have sum. We are going to have a sum, and the sum is going to be reported on each iteration here. And the sum needs to be calculated here. Int sum equals another variable, decimal, plus J index, and that part is done. So to go from the tens place or the 10s to the 20s to the 30s to the 40s and etc., we need to be able to change the decimal value. So if it's from 1 to 10, then the decimal value will technically be 0. But if it's from 11 to 20, the decimal value will be 10. So let's go ahead and calculate the decimal value. And whatever I index is, we multiply it by 10. All right. And basically, when index is 0, that means that the decimal is 0. So when we add 0 to the J index, it goes from 0 to 9. So it'll be 0, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And basically, when an I index changes to 1, this becomes 10. So 10 plus 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So that's why we'll be able to report 0 to 99 on the screen. All right. Let's do some. All right. And let's run this guy. Oh, I didn't call it. Okay. Fair enough. Copy this. All right. That looks a bit rough. Okay, that's better. All right, so we have three places for the digits to sit. And we start at 0, and then we go all the way to 99. So this is the running with nested for loops. Now, how do we make it 1 to 100? Simple. We just add 1 right here. All right, so let's run this again and see it go to 100. Perfect. So 1, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way down to 100. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the logical parts of using break statements and using continues, break statements, and then the return inside of the loops. So let's go ahead and add in a continue. Let's go back to the first for loop, and we're going to add in a continue inside the first for loop. And basically, the reason why we want to do that is because we just want to demonstrate how the continue works. So what I want to do is make this part here an else if, and then have a new if here all together. So let's go ahead and do that. So now this is else if index equals 0, then we print it out this way. Now, what we want to check for is if index is 5 in this case. So in the first for loop, if index is 5, then we want to continue. So instead of doing this, we are just going to say continue. And essentially what this does is whenever the I index is 5, or whenever the index is 5, it says, okay, continue to the next iteration of the loop. And then it comes back to 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, and then it finishes off. So let's see that work. Essentially what you'll see is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 with the continue, because it skips over 5, because we explicitly said to skip over 5. All right. All right, that's what we have. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that's the first for loop. We're going to do something similar in the second for loop. This time, instead of a continue, we're going to do a break. So basically what happens here is it goes from 10 all the way down to 1. As you see here, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So when we get to 5, it's going to break. meaning 5 won't be reported to the screen with the printing, and none of the other items in the loop will be reported to the screen either, because the break ends the loop operation. So it says, okay, let's break this loop and let's exit it. All right, so let's go ahead and run that one. All right, what you see here is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And then when it got to 5, it broke the loop. So no more of the loop iterations happen after that. All right, so now we're going to need for the last portion, we're going to need the random number and response. And inside of the run with nested for loops, we're going to generate a random number here within the bounds of 100, not including 100. So basically ending all of the iterations at 100 kind of really doesn't, need to happen. So from 99, so from 0 to 99, which is basically the same thing, we're going to be able to break the loop. We're going to be able to return from both layers of loop. So if we were to do a break, we would only end the J iterations, but we would still continue to do the I iterations for the next levels. But if we were to return, it ends all iterations for the entire method. Basically, return says exit out of this method. So it goes out of the loop here, it comes out of this loop here, and then it comes all the way out of the method, to exit the method when we use the return. All right, so let's show what we're going to return on. We are going to return on this response, and we are going to print all the digits before we return, meaning we're still going to iterate, and print the digit that we are returning on. But once we get to that sum, when we calculate the sums, once we get to this sum, we're going to return from the entire method, basically out of this loop, and then out of this method, back out into the main method. All right, so I believe this would be it. Okay, so 97 was our returns. So instead of doing 98, 99, and 100, it exited out of the nested loops and the method at 97. All right. Let's run it one more time to show it maybe at a smaller iteration. Okay, great. So 39. So instead of going to 40 and then all of the numbers after it, it ended at 39. And it exited out of that run with nested for loops method. All right, so that is the gist of our lesson today. We covered all of these topics. Let's check for questions. All right. Okay, yeah. Is there a correct loop for when I don't know how much data is available or how long a list is? Yes. It'll be similar to what we did with the while loop up above. Basically, we don't really know when we're going to actually find a response that's divisible by 4. So this loop will continue and continue and continue until we find the sentinel value of a response divisible by 4. Let's see. You said how much. So that's how much data is available. How long a list is. Yeah. So if you had a maybe say like an array list that's growing while you're running the while loop, then yeah, you could basically just check to see if that array list's size. If you're removing items from that list, once you work on the item, if you want to remove it, then you'll be able to check against the size of that array list. Okay, another way is by using index and then check the index against the size as well. So if you were looping through a while loop and using like say an array list, excuse me, you were using an array list that grows, you would have some kind of index of where you are currently, and then you would basically check. You would basically check that index against the size. So I guess I don't have a way to update an array list with growing data right now. But I guess I could give an example of what it would look like. And, while growing while loop. How about that? With while loop data. All right. So we would have something like an array list, and then we can call it list and the array list. And let's say it's integers. And let's import that. Let's see, list. Oh, and then this right here. So this will be the current index. Current index. And let's start it at 0. All right. And then basically what we do is check to see if the current index is less than the list size. All right, so as long as the current index is less than the list size, then we can increment the current index. And yeah, something like that. All or actually, yeah, so we increment current index here. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, so if this list is growing in size, maybe inside of this loop, maybe somewhere else, and we're dealing with like asynchronous things, locks and threading and things of that nature. Maybe you're updating the list somewhere else, but you're reading from maybe some file and then updating this list. Then yeah, so basically, as long as the list has data and the current index hasn't gone to the end of that data, then we process the data and then increment the current index, something similar to this. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. Another question, how many times is a do while loop executed if the condition is false? That's pretty straightforward. Oh, where's the do while loop? I thought I had a do while loop. I guess I have a do while. I think I'm missing a loop. I am missing a loop. Yeah, I didn't do the regular do while loop like I had planned. This is the do while loop iteration. So run with do while loop. And basically it's the same as the random number up here. We get a random response and we basically use that random response, or we display that random response immediately. And then we get another random response, and then we check against the logic of the new random response. So we'll at least get one that is, well, this one I did divisible by 2. So we might get it pretty quickly. Let's test this out. Oops. All right, let's try this out. Okay, yeah, so do while. Let's see, the first digit was 82, and it was divisible by 2, but because the do while loop does one iteration, one iteration by default, it actually updated the random number to a number that's not divisible by 2, and it happened over and over and over again until we got to 98, and that's when it was divisible by 2. So yeah, to answer your question, what was it again? How many times is a do while loop executed if the condition is false? Let's just set it to false. Let's say 100. Code. Okay, so yeah, we got well, technically what I did not make it false. I just got lucky. Let's run this again. Okay, yeah. So because the new random number that's generated within the while loop is divisible by 2, it fails on 100. So with the logic being false, it does at least one iteration. Hopefully that answers your question. All right. Let's see, what else do we have? So we have the Q&A, and then we have the next lesson. It's supposed to be on what is a Java file, and I want to kind of go into the different types of Java files that are common. Some of them might be a TXT file. Some of them might be all of the different types of files. I don't want to go too deep into like generating images, because then we have to deal with like bits and pixels and all of these things. But yes, we're going to go into some of the Java file stuff. But beyond that, the next lesson would be on Java property files specifically. And with that, I want to be able to create some way to save data in a basic, Java console application. And so when you open the application the next time, that data is still there, saved in that file, in that property file. And then beyond the that lesson, I'm not really sure exactly what the next lesson could be. I have some options as far as SQL, dealing with MySQL or SQLite or DBMS or JDBC and all of these things, or dealing with threads, the runnables and the threads, and like using external libraries aside from the regular Java libraries for threads. Inheritance, dealing with similar to what we've looked at with the shoe class and the sneaker class in the previous lesson, and also with the screenshot that I had available for a dog class, and then a hound, which is the subclass of that hound. I can go into depth on inheritance. That's basically what inheritance is. Regular expressions, they're basically like ways to process strings and extract data out of those strings, or match the strings and say, okay, this string is available within this file or within this string. Yeah, so basically just like string manipulation, so to speak. And any other suggestions. So if you guys have suggestions for lessons, please give them. Here's a link to actually open the suggestions area where we're going to take suggestions. It's on github.com. So I just made a shorter version of the link with git.io. And basically this, yeah, this is the link. So that link, upcoming Java lessons. And basically we can upvote whatever topics that are already commented. So as far as topics go, we could possibly do inheritance, we can do regex or regular expressions, we can do threads. And if you don't have a GitHub account, it's pretty easy to create. And then you'll be able to add a topic here and then vote on that topic as well. I've used the thumbs up for my voting, and I was saying that the heart, thumbs up, or the rocket ship are upvotes for a topic. If you don't like a topic, maybe you could downvote it. The way that you vote for them is through your reactions here. So we have a downvote, we have laughing, we have hooray, party, confetti, confused or sad face, and then googly eyes for wow, really? So if you want to, react to some of the concepts or some of the subjects that are possibly going to be in upcoming Java lessons, you can do that right here with that GitHub link that I shared. Alrighty then. So that is the lesson. Have a good night, guys.